Prince's music was like the soundtrack to your life. But there's no one for whom that's more true than Mayte Garcia. She was his wife, his muse, his best friend. At 51, Mayte Garcia isn't just looking back, she's telling the truth. Once the young bride of Prince, she lived in a world of music, magic, and mystery. But behind the scenes was a love story that cracked under pressure. For years, fans only saw the perfect pictures, the performances, and the passion. What they didn't see was the heartbreak that pushed her to walk away from the man everyone else thought was untouchable. So why did Mayte finally divorce Prince? And what secrets has she been carrying all this time? Stay with us, because this is where the fairy tale unravels. Before the legend, Prince's untold beginnings. Prince was never just born. He was unleashed. From the moment he hit a stage, it was clear this wasn't some ordinary kid from Minneapolis. He was destined to shake music to its core. With his high-heeled boots and ruffled suits, Prince didn't just perform. He electrified. But before the world saw the superstar, there was simply Prince Rogers Nelson, a boy growing up in Minneapolis. Born on June 7, 1958. His father played piano. His mother was a jazz singer, and young Prince was determined to outplay them both. By the age of 7, he had already written his first song. Piano, guitar, drums. He taught himself everything, because music for him wasn't just a passion. It was survival. Behind the sparkle of his genius was a childhood filled with problems. His parents split when he was 10, and his mother quickly remarried. The relationship with his stepfather was rocky, and Prince spent years bouncing between homes, never really belonging anywhere. On top of that, he struggled with epileptic seizures as a child, something other kids cruelly teased him about. Later, he admitted that the only way to cover that pain was to make himself flashy and noisy. And oh, did he succeed. By the time he was 10, things at home had gotten so tense that he left his father's house and moved in with neighbors, the Andersons. There he formed a brotherhood with their son, Andre, who would later become Andre Simone. The two of them started a band called Grand Central, playing local gigs and chasing dreams far bigger than Minneapolis could hold. Prince lived and breathed music. As a teenager, he buried himself in the basement studio of a local DJ, writing down the lyrics of legends like James Brown and Aretha Franklin, studying every sound like scripture. And soon, he wasn't just copying, he was creating. By 16, he had left school and carved out his lane. The Minneapolis sound was born. Funk, rock, soul, and synth colliding in a way the world had never heard. By 18, Prince was already a session guitarist. By 19, he had a Warner Records deal. His first album, For You, dropped in 1978. Critics weren't floored, but Prince was just warming up. A year later, he was on the road performing solo shows that were anything but ordinary. Erotic, theatrical, dangerous. He declared what pop was missing: risk. And risk was exactly what he embodied. Then came the 80s, the decade where Prince didn't just rise. He skyrocketed. 1999 turned him into an MTV darling. His image and sound searing into pop culture. And then came Purple Rain, the album, the movie, the phenomenon. For 24 weeks straight, Purple Rain owned the Billboard charts. 25 million copies sold worldwide. Overnight, Prince became more than a musician. He was an icon. But behind the scenes, Prince was running his world like an army general. The man was obsessive, private, and relentless. Those who worked with him described the grind as a tour of duty. His engineer, Susan Rogers, once admitted that life with Prince meant sleepless nights, endless calls, and zero negotiation. If Prince wanted you back in the studio, you were there. Carmen Electra, who briefly dated him, revealed that he barely slept. She would wake up to an empty bed, only to find him deep in his home studio, lost in the music. Journalist Alan Light remembered touring with him. 3-hour sound checks, 2-hour concerts, and then after-parties that lasted until dawn. The stamina was inhuman, but so was his output. Prince demanded perfection because he lived for freedom. The freedom to say what he wanted, play what he wanted, and never let the industry control him. He even fought Warner Brothers head-on, famously changing his name in 1993 to an unpronounceable symbol, forcing people to call him the artist formerly known as Prince. It wasn't just a stunt, it was rebellion, his way of saying, "You don't own me." Even as the spotlight shifted in later years, Prince never stopped. He recorded, he toured, and he played with the same intensity he had as a teenager, scribbling James Brown lyrics in a basement. In 2010, he was named one of Time's 100 most influential people. Prince Rogers Nelson didn't just make music. He bent it, broke it, rebuilt it, and left it in a shape no one else could copy. And even in death in 2016, his shadow still looms large. The boy who once felt unwanted carved his own throne and made the world bow to his sound. Inside Prince's secretive love life, Prince wasn't just a musical genius. He was a man who lived surrounded by desire. Women were drawn to him, and he never made any attempt to hide his fondness for them. Over the years, his name became linked to some of the most famous women in Hollywood and beyond. Madonna, Sheila E., Carmen Electra, Kim Basinger. The list reads like a hall of fame of beauty and power. And while Prince only walked down the aisle twice, the romances in between were just as unforgettable, passionate, messy, sometimes scandalous, but always unforgettable. Take Kim Basinger, for example. In the late 80s, she and Prince ignited one of his most notorious affairs. Their chemistry was so undeniable that it spilled straight into the studio. Word spread that Basinger's vocals on the song were recorded while the two were intimate. Music and intimacy fused into one provocative piece of art. The rumor alone set the world buzzing. But behind the scenes, her family was alarmed. They worried Prince's influence over her was too strong. So much so that they once staged a rescue mission to pull her from Paisley Park while he was away. At the time, Kim was on the verge of Hollywood superstardom with Batman, while Prince was dominating the soundtrack. Their lives collided at just the right moment. Years later, when asked about it, Kim looked back with nothing but fondness. She called it a special time, saying she never restricted herself. If the connection was there, she went for it. And with Prince, she absolutely did. But Kim wasn't the only one whose life Prince altered. In the early 90s, he discovered a young woman named Tara Lee Patrick. Prince didn't just date her, he reinvented her. He renamed her Carmen Electra, transformed her into a star, and pushed her into the limelight. Their romance was tangled with mentorship, passion, and performance. After his death, Carmen admitted she would always love him. He had given her more than a name. He had given her belief in herself, a gift she would never forget. Then came Apollonia, forever tied to Prince through Purple Rain. On screen, she was his love interest. Off screen, the sparks kept flying. She once described him as her greatest friend, confessing that their bond was both platonic and romantic all at once, something that blurred every line and left their connection impossible to define. Not every romance was long, but all of them left a mark. In the early 90s, Prince had a brief fling with Twin Peaks star Sherilyn Fenn. Years later, she admitted that he had inspired her, changed her life, and left her with memories she would never shake. Around the same time, whispers swirled that Prince wrote The Most Beautiful Girl in the World for actress Vanessa Marcil, who even appeared in the song's video. It was never confirmed, but fans have long believed she was the muse behind one of his most iconic ballads. And then there was Vanity. If any relationship mirrored Prince's fire, it was this one. Vanity, born Denise Matthews, fronted the girl group Vanity 6, created by Prince himself. Together, they were explosive, a pairing that radiated both passion and chaos. But their love story was also tragic. Vanity spiraled into drug addiction, and their romance eventually crumbled under the weight of her struggles. She later died in 2016 from renal failure, a loss that echoed Prince's own untimely death just months later. But through it all, one woman always stood out. Sheila E., the drummer who matched Prince's rhythm on stage, also matched his energy off of it. Their romance was real, but their friendship was eternal. Even after the love affair ended, they remained collaborators, confidants, and true partners in music. When Prince passed, Sheila admitted that the word loss had taken on an entirely new meaning. Prince's love life was never ordinary. It was passion mixed with scandal, mentorship tangled with romance and heartbreak alongside inspiration. For him, women weren't just lovers. They were muses. They were the flames that fed his fire and the mirrors that reflected his genius back at him. And just like his music, his romances were impossible to confine. Wild, unpredictable, and unforgettable. The day Prince met Mayte, a love story begins. Before fame ever found her, Mayte Garcia was already writing her own destiny. At just 9 years old, she turned to her mother and boldly announced that one day she would marry either Luis Miguel or Prince. Her mother laughed, dismissing it as the kind of fantasy little girls dream up. But Mayte wasn't joking. She meant every word. She didn't end up with Luis Miguel. Instead, fate delivered her the other name on that list. Prince, the girl who once sat glued to the screen, watching Purple Rain until she knew every scene by heart, grew up to become his pen pal, his muse, his collaborato.